So computers and microcontrollers are getting cheaper. We can put them everywhere, and having small microcontrollers everywhere is cool. But what's even better is when we can connect them to other stuff. So all these connected devices are that Internet of Things that you've been hearing about. So let's assume you're building a project and you want to add some connectivity to that, and you want to connect your devices. So which technology do you use? Before we get there, we got to ask a couple questions. How much data are we sending? How fast are you sending it? Where are you sending it? How far are you sending it? These may help us choose which technology you'd want to use. Sending temperature readings every 5 minutes is much different than trying to stream high-definition video. A few other things I like to ask are, is a device's location fixed, or only change from time to time? Does it go between home and school or home and work? Or is the device going to be constantly moving, like it's going to be in a car or on your bike or something like that? And are you battery powered or are you plugged in? So for the most part today, we're going to start off with short-range technologies. They work within a room, a house, or a building. There are a lot of options. Usually the best case on these technologies is between 10 and 100 meters. That's kind of like the advertised range. Realistically, you get a lot less than that. Also today we're talking about radio frequency or RF stuff. There's other solutions using light, infrared, sound, ultrasonic. Not enough time to cover all that today. So one technology is Bluetooth. Bluetooth has been around for a long time. It's fairly mature. When you're using Bluetooth in a maker project, you're typically using something called Serial Port Profile, or SPP. And when you're using Bluetooth in that way, once you've paired your devices together, you can treat them like they're connected with like a cable. You send data and you receive data. It's just a big serial connection. And that works really well going to a computer, going to an Android phone. It does not work well going to iPhones. In fact, it doesn't work at all from a maker's perspective going to iPhones. Adafruit, SparkFun, Seed Studio, they all have some really good Bluetooth Classic hardware. On Amazon, you can get these generic HC05 and HC06 devices. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but they're cheap. Another good thing here is a Raspberry Pi 3 and the Raspberry Pi Zero wireless. They're great because they have Bluetooth built into them. There's also Bluetooth Low Energy. I got into Bluetooth Low Energy so I could connect iPhones to my projects that I was building. iOS has APIs that let you write Bluetooth Low Energy stuff, but not Bluetooth Classic. So Bluetooth can act like a serial connection, sort of like Bluetooth Low Energy can act like a serial connection, similar to Bluetooth Classic. But Bluetooth Low Energy is much better when you have a device or a peripheral that offers a service. Then your phone can go and it can scan for devices with those services that it offers. It can connect to them. It can introspect and learn about those services. So it's a really good thing. One of my favorite things for Bluetooth Low Energy is to go between phones and my projects. Since Android 4.2, there's been really good support for Bluetooth Low Energy, and all iPhones support Bluetooth Low Energy. Also, the Raspberry Pi Zero wireless and Raspberry Pi 3 support Bluetooth Low Energy very well. So Wi-Fi is another option. Wi-Fi used to be expensive when you were doing maker projects. It's come down a lot in price in the past couple years. Wi-Fi is good if you want to send and receive a lot of data to the internet. Once you're connected to the Wi-Fi network. One of the downsides to Wi-Fi is the initial configuration can be a bit cumbersome. A lot of times the devices don't have keyboards or other user interfaces. So when I'm writing my own stuff, I can hard code SSIDs and passwords. But if I have a device that I want to then bring to work, sometimes that's not as good. So Wi-Fi is great for objects in fixed locations. A lot of Wi-Fi sensor networks I run use a lot of power too, so I like to have AC power available. You can do things with battery-powered devices and Wi-Fi that maybe run for a day and you charge them up. Or if you're looking for long-range or longer-term things on batteries, there's strategies to try to sleep the Wi-Fi radio and sleep the processor. So the ESP8266 is a board that came out a few years back, and that really changed this. You can buy them for $3 on Amazon and Alibaba. I'd like to buy the boards more in the $10 range because they have documentation instrumentation, and they just tend to work a lot better. But it's getting to the point where you can easily throw a Wi-Fi radio and microcontroller in a project and not really worry about the cost. Once again, the Raspberry Pi 3, Raspberry Pi wireless are very good. Arduino has the MKR 1000 board. Particle has a photon board. So there's all kinds of choices from $10 to $30 probably in that range. So XBee and ZigBee is another technology. I haven't been using this as much since the Wi-Fi stuff got a lot cheaper. It uses the IEEE 802.15.4 protocol. It's a mesh network. It operates at 2.4 gigahertz, so the same frequency as Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. It's used in products such as the Philips Hue light bulbs. XBee is a brand of radios made by Digi, and so XBee can do everything ZigBee can do, but they also have extensions. So they have ones that work point-to-point, ones that work mesh. They have long-range versions that work at 900 megahertz. XBee has worked really well for me in the past when we're setting up networks. You can go in, once you have them configured, you deploy your networks out there. Since the ESP8266 came out, I end up using Wi-Fi a lot more these days, but if you need mesh, XBee can still be a really good thing. You can deploy your networks in areas where there's no Wi-Fi. Z-Wave is another tech. It's most of the places I see it is in home automation. It's also a mesh technology. It tends to have less range in my experience than some of these other technologies, so I find you need enough Z-Wave devices so that you can get coverage in the area that you want. Some of the Z-Wave devices I have in my house I control via Samsung SmartThings hub. Before I used to use an Aeon Z-Wave stick, plug that into a Raspberry Pi and try to control them through there. In general, Z-Wave is a little too closed or not documented, hard to work with, so I try, it's not as maker-friendly as I'd like, so I usually try to use something else. Unless I'm integrating with existing hardware, sometimes you don't have the choice and you want to use Z-Wave. So gateways are some things you need. If you're using Z-Wave, ZigBee, Bluetooth, you can't get to the internet from these devices. So sometimes you need another device called a gateway, which will bridge the traffic from your one network onto the internet via Wi-Fi, cellular, Ethernet, something like that. Other times you can run your network completely isolated off of the internet. This could be a dedicated piece of hardware that's the gateway, or your phone can also be a gateway. When you have a Fitbit or something like that, it uses your phone as a gateway to get to the internet. Near-field communication is another technology. Near-field communication lets you send a small amount of data over a very short distance, typically less than 20 centimeters. So you might see that as a disadvantage, but the real advantage of this is that the user can control when things happen. So it's good for unlocking doors and other things like that. So cellular is where we move beyond short-range networks. We have a little farther range. It uses a lot more battery. So cellular can be expensive if you think about a phone, but there's these machine-to-machine or M2M plans where for between $1 and $3 a month, you can get a plan for your device, and you're sending megabytes of data, not gigabytes of data, but it works well. Arduino announced the Maker GSM 1400 yesterday. I really like Particle Electron. There's a bunch of hardware out there. There's a site, Hologram.io. They have some hardware. They did a Kickstarter. They will give you a free SIM card and a 1 megabyte of data per month if you sign up. So once we're going beyond cellular, there's LPWAN, low power wide area network. LoRa is one of those low power wide area network things. Theoretically, you can go up to 20 kilometers with this. That's 12 miles. Realistically, you won't get that far, but you can get a lot farther. It runs in the industrial, scientific, and medical, or ISM band. So it's like 433 megahertz in Europe and 900-ish megahertz in the US. Yesterday, Arduino announced the Maker WAN 1300 board. There's also boards from Adafruit, PyCom that do LoRa. These LoRa devices can only talk to each other. So if you want to get them on the network, you could build a gateway, but there's something called LoRa WAN, which is a specification for how these can connect to the internet and go back and forth. Data speeds are really slow. They're measured in kilobits per second. The goal is to maximize battery life and network capability. Machine Q is building out LoRa networks in Philadelphia, Chicago, San Francisco. They've announced 11 other cities. You can also build your own LoRa WAN network out. There's the Thing network, and if you go, you can find people in your area that are building out these networks. Sigfox is very similar to LoRaWAN, but it's only operator controlled. So Sigfox operators come in, they build a network. You subscribe kind of like a cell phone plan, but once again, it's $1 per month kind of thing. And PyCom and Arduino have hardware for that. So I just threw a ton of stuff at you. I wanted to leave a few minutes for questions here at the end. Hopefully you can clarify anything. The idea is basically, find what technology is going to work really good for you guys and start building some stuff.
So, yeah.
Yes?
You mentioned mesh networks. How does a mesh network protocol differ from a traditional network protocol?
So the question is about mesh network and how does that differ? Pretty much if you have a device A, B, and C, and A and C are too far apart, a mesh network B will relay those messages over, whereas other ones are point-to-point and star, and you have to be directly near each other. So mesh networks can expand and grow.
Okay, any more questions for Don? Yeah.
There's some upcoming LTE technologies like narrowband and CAT-M. Can you say something about that in terms of future-proofing? And
I don't know. There's a lot of LPWAN technologies, and those I took out of. I had a list of probably 6 other ones that I threw out because they were, they're very immature. I haven't got hands on them yet. So I think in the next year or two we're going to see a lot of new things come up, and so it's kind of an exciting time to be doing the LPWAN.